the quiet defender. The Texas dawn broke heavy over Carson County, the air thick with the promise of heat. Samuel Carter stepped onto his sagging porch, a chipped blue mug of coffee steaming in his calloused hand. At 62, Sam was a wiry figure, his skin weathered like the oak fence ringing his 80-acre farm. To the folks in town, he was just the quiet farmer who bought nails and wire at Miller's Hardware every Sunday, never lingering for small talk. But across the Rio Grande, in the shadowed bars of Juarez, his name was a ghost story, a whisper that made hardened men check their backs. Sam wasn't paranoid. He was trained. And this morning, something was wrong. The sparrows were silent. The dirt near his north gate bore tire tracks that didn't belong, and the coyotes hadn't howled last night. Trouble wasn't coming. It was already here. Sam's farm sat a mile from the Mexican border, a flat stretch of corn rows and scrubland where smugglers cut fences to move drugs, or worse. Most ranchers called Sheriff Dan Walsh and kept their heads down. Sam wasn't like most ranchers. 6 years ago, he'd bought this land with cash, built a gate, and carved out a life of solitude. His neighbors knew him as a man of few words, but they didn't know the scars under his flannel shirt, one from a knife in Mosul, another from shrapnel in Fallujah. Sam never spoke of the missions, the medals, or the men he'd buried. He'd left that life behind. Or so he thought. As he sipped his coffee, his sharp eyes caught the signs, a broken twig, a scuffed rock, and the faint hum of silence where life should have been. His gut told him what his eyes confirmed. Someone was watching. That morning, Sam walked his property's perimeter, his right knee stiff from an old wound. The sun beat down, but he moved with purpose, scanning the dirt like a man reading a map. Near the irrigation ditch, he found it. 3 sets of boot prints, fresh and deep. He crouched, tracing the edges with a steady finger. Heavy treads, long rifles, or body armor. Not hunters, not farmhands. They weren't careful. That was their first mistake. Sam stood, letting the wind carry dust through the mesquite trees. From the hill, he could see Mexico, the river low and easy to cross. He'd heard ranchers grumble about cut fences and bundles left in the brush. Most called it bad luck. Sam called it a pattern, and patterns meant planning. Across the border, in a Juarez warehouse that stank of diesel and gun oil, Carlos Mendez paced before a folding table. His boots echoed on the concrete, cutting through the low laughter of his crew-tattooed men cleaning rifles and passing a jug of tequila. Carlos, wiry and sharp-eyed, tapped a satellite image of Sam's farm. No patrols, no cameras. Just one old man, he said, his voice clipped. His second in command, Javier, leaned back, a snake tattoo curling up his neck. You sure he's alone? Carlos shot him a hard look. What's one farmer gonna do? Throw dirt at us? The room erupted in laughter, but Carlos didn't mention the scout they'd lost 2 weeks ago, found drowned in the river, no wounds, his gun and pack gone. He called it the current. He was wrong. Carlos had run loads across the border for a decade: meth, electronics, even people. He was good, but he had a blind spot. He underestimated men who didn't talk. That night, Sam sat in the dark, windows open, eating cold beans from a can. The house was quiet, but his ears were sharp. A twig snapped near the west field, too clean, too deliberate. He didn't grab the shotgun leaning by the door. Not yet. He wanted to know how bold they'd get. At 2:14 a.m., a metallic click snapped him from a half-sleep. Someone had hit the old irrigation grate. Barefoot, he moved silently, pulling an M9 pistol from a cloth bundle under his bed. He racked the slide soft, controlled and tucked it into his waistband. Outside, the moonlight cast long shadows. 3 shapes crept through his cornrows, sloppy and loud. One carried a scoped AK, another bolt cutters that glinted. They whispered, thinking the house was empty. He's probably drunk, one snorted. Sam crouched behind a rusted water tank, watching. They weren't pros, just thugs used to fear. He let them leave, memorizing their rhythm. Knowledge was his first weapon. By morning, Sam found his barbed wire cut clean, like surgery. 3 sets of tracks again, deeper now. They were measuring. He didn't call Sheriff Dan. Instead, he drove to Miller's Hardware, where Tom Grayson, the grizzled clerk, watched him pick out cable ties, gloves, and razor wire. Expecting trouble, Sam? Tom asked, squinting. Just company, Sam said, paying cash. Back home, he dug shallow trenches behind his cornrows, rigged tripwires with flashbangs, and reinforced his north fence. That night, his trap caught Oni. Blinding light flared from the shed, and a man fled, leaving blood on the wire and a machete in the dirt. Sam wiped it clean and kept it. By dawn, a canvas note was pinned to his gate with a hunting knife: "Leave the field." Sam didn't flinch. He mapped his land and his head entry points, kill zones, traps. War was coming, and he'd be ready. The conflict turned hot at noon, the sun scorching the fields. Sam was fixing a fence when he smelled smoke. Not a wildfire, something deliberate. He dropped his hammer and moved fast, boots crunching over dry soil. Cresting the hill, he saw it. 3 rows of corn burned to ash, a metal sign staked into the dirt: "Back off, or we burn it all." The flames were low, fed by gasoline. This wasn't a warning, it was a declaration. Sam's jaw tightened. He'd seen fire before, in villages halfway across the world, where men burned homes to break spirits. It hadn't worked then. It wouldn't now. He walked to his den, opened a locked trunk, and pulled out a black bag. Inside, desert fatigues, a K-bar knife, zip ties, and 2 extra magazines. He changed slowly, each piece a ritual. The farmer was gone. The soldier was back. That evening, Sam circled his land through the brush, moving as silently as a shadow. Near the south ridge, he found a flipped feed trough hiding 2 duffel bags of drugs, white powder, tightly wrapped. They weren't just testing him. They wanted his land as a route. A twig snapped 30 yards away. He dropped low, watching a young thug, maybe 23, check the bags, an Uzi in his shaky hand. Sam crept forward, circling wide. When the kid knelt, Sam stepped from behind a cedar tree, pressing his pistol to the man's neck. "Name," he growled. "Diego," the kid stammered. "Who sent you?" "Carlos Mendez. Said it was just a farm." Sam leaned close. "Tell Carlos this land's off limits. Next man over my fence gets buried." He cut Diego's zip ties and let him run, trembling. Mercy was a louder message than blood. Carlos didn't listen. Diego's story returned alive, but shaken burned his pride. He sent 10 men at midnight, led by Raul, a bearded thug who barked orders like he was untouchable. Trucks and bikes roared up the dirt road, dust choking the air. Sam was ready, perched in his barn's loft with a scoped rifle, peering through a jagged slit. His crude sensors, fishing line, and soda cans had tripped 10 minutes ago. He didn't wait. 2 men hit a flashbang near the ditch, screaming as light and sound tore through them. Chaos erupted. Sam moved fast, silent, climbing down and circling behind rusted plows. He took 1 man with a chokehold, another with a knife. Raul fired wildly into the corn, shouting useless orders. Sam crawled through a drainage trench, popping up to drop a 3rd man with a single shot. A 4th hit a snare, his ankle caught in a steel cable. 5 down. The rest huddled near the barn, guns shaking. Raul screamed, "They're waiting for us." Sam picked them off, a shot from the shadows, a blade in the dark. Only Raul and a young soldier remained. Sam stepped from behind the silo. "Drop it." The kid complied, trembling. Raul raised his rifle, but Sam was faster, a shot to the leg. Raul fell, cursing. "You sent boys to a man's land," Sam said. "Tell Carlos this was his last warning." The kid dragged Raul to the trucks, defeated. Sam didn't celebrate. He was tired. But Carlos crossed a line. Enraged by the humiliation, he kidnapped Joey Perez, a 17-year-old who worked at Navarro's feed store near Sam's farm. Beaten and cut, Joey was dumped by the river, barely alive, with Sam's name scrawled on a paper in his pocket. Word reached Sam through Tom at the hardware store. "He's stable, but he won't talk," Tom said. "Call the sheriff, Sam. You can't fight this alone." "I'm not fighting," Sam said, voice low. "I'm finishing." He opened an envelope from Marcus, an old friend from his Delta days, and plugged a thumb drive into his laptop. It held 10 names. He called Ellen Hayes, a retired border analyst in El Paso. "I need eyes on Carlos Mendez. Juarez. Cartel loads near Del Rio," he said. "How bad?" she asked. "Bad enough to end it," Sam replied. That night, he sat on his porch, a cigar burning, its smoke a warning to the wind. Joey's blood wasn't just a message, it was a mistake. And Sam didn't forgive mistakes. Carlos came alone the next day, a black SUV hidden a mile off, behind thorn bushes. The sky was gray, and heat was rising from the earth. He walked to Sam's porch, a duffel bag heavy with C4. Sam had seen him coming through old Steiner binoculars, the dogs at the neighbor's ranch silent. Carlos stopped 10 feet from the steps, sweat beading on his brow. "You think you won?" he spat. "I'm still here," Sam said, standing slowly, unarmed but unafraid. "You brought 10 men. They left in pieces." Carlos unzipped the bag, revealing explosives. "I'll erase this place." Sam didn't blink. "You're not here to die. You're here to be feared. But I don't scare." The air crackled. Carlos's hand twitched, but Sam saw the flicker hesitation. "You've lost men, product, respect," Sam said. "You don't get it back by dying. Walk away." A minute passed, heavy with silence. Carlos grabbed the bag, turned, and walked off, his pride shattered. Sam watched until the dust settled, then sat back on his porch. The fight was over for now. 3 days later, the land was quiet. Sam walked his fields, finding only his tracks and a few deer prints. The burned corn stood charred, but the soil would heal. He didn't try to replant yet. Some wounds needed time. Sheriff Dan Walsh stopped by, hat in hand, a bottle of iced tea sweating in the heat. "Feds got chatter from Ellen Hayes," Dan said. "Carlos is done. They found bodies by the river. Clean work." "Wasn't me," Sam said flatly. Dan studied him. "Folks here know you kept this place safe. You won." Sam looked at the horizon, the sun sinking behind his fields. "You win wars, Dan. Peace. You earn that every day." Dan tipped his hat and left. Sam sat with his coffee, pistol on the table, part of life now. A neighbor drove by, waving. Sam waved back. Word had spread. Carlos would find easier routes, his name tarnished by the farmer who broke him. That night, Sam made dinner beans and cornbread, the same as always. It tasted better in the silence. He left the radio off, letting the crickets and distant frogs fill the air. Before bed, he pulled a worn journal from his desk and wrote. They thought this was just a farm. They left knowing it was a fight. He turned out the light, the house settling around him. Peace wasn't a flag or a medal. It was the choice to wake up, walk the land, and defend what mattered, no matter who came knocking. This story isn't just about one man's stand. It's about what it means to protect your own when the world crosses your line. Was Sam right to fight alone, risking everything? Or should he have trusted the law? Is violence ever justified against injustice? Or does it only breed more? Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us where you stand, and let's talk about the cost of standing up in a world that doesn't always play fair.